Oh, look
Okay.
who the first person is.
Oh, it's connecting. There we go.
Hi,
Look who it
Hi.
is.
how are you guys?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Have
too.
you guys met?
Uh-uh.
Nope.
So this is Donna. Donna, this is my best friend, Julie.
Hi,
Hi,
Julie.
Donna. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I've seen you on Facebook through Audrey's posts, but I've never met you.
Oh,
She's my best friend from high school. This is not her language. She's here just to support us.
Love that.
it's my
But
language. Come on.
but we're gonna try to make her hippie out a little bit.
This is the only place I can sit because like I was telling Audrey, we're getting new floors, so everything is taped and a huge disaster. So we're all kind of living in this room up here, and this is like all I have to do. So pardon the
Perfect.
pillows and the blankets.
Did you go running already?
No, I rescheduled for afterwards.
Oh, so nice.
Fabulous. Way to give
Hmm.
yourself time. That's great.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we don't do it, how's it going to happen? Right?
Exactly.
Exactly. All right. So we've had a few people that are going to be joining us on recording or watching the recording afterwards. So
Am
we'll
I
get,
the only one? Because this is going to be really fun if I am.
oh my gosh, it's going to be so fun. We have like 20 some people registered. So we'll see.
Exactly. I'm like, where the fuck is everybody? Oh, there we
We
go.
go. This is one of my clients. You got it, Audrey?
Got
So,
it.
client, Rosalind. I love her. You're going to love her. Oh, I forgot we're recording. I'm like doing commentary.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Got to.
I mean, I was saying nice things, but still, I'm like, oh my gosh. Hi, Rosalind.
Good morning.
Hi.
Morning.
Rosalind's calling in from Canada. Awesome.
Great.
So we're now an international group. Thank you for making us fancy, Rosalind. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. We're just going to wait a few more minutes. Hi, Jenny.
Jenny. Morning,
Hi,
Jenny.
hi. I'm trying to turn my video off.
You gotten it
There we
on?
go.
Okay. That's
Okay,
great.
and muting.
Oh, you can have your camera on. We love seeing everybody. And it says Leo. I wonder if that's my friend Val. Her son's name is Leo. It's Val, not Leo. I love it.
I'm going to change it.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, Val.
Okay.
Good day, everyone.
Hi. All right, we're going to wait just a few more minutes because we had a bunch of people register. So we're just going to, everybody take a moment, settle in, get yourself oh, I got to go grab my coffee. I grab that really quick. You're going to want me to have my coffee, people.
Use the restroom if you have to, because we are not taking any breaks. We are packed.
Love it. More people coming? We should
Not
still
yet.
wait a minute though. That's a good idea.
Audrey, you look really pretty.
Thank you.
And I like the roses in the background.
Thank you. I'm
I'm
really
gonna
into
mute
white
myself
flowers.
because
And the what?
Mitch is moving stuff in the background, so I'm going to mute myself for a little while so there's
Okay.
not background noise.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm loving white flowers lately. I don't know why.
I love that. All right. So we are going to ask everybody we would love it if you would be on camera because it just helps us all connect and be with each other. And if you have to once in a while shut it off because there's a distraction or something happens, that's great. But if you can, we'd love to see your beautiful face. And I think otherwise, Audrey, why don't we go ahead and begin?
Okay, great. So welcome, everyone. We're so excited to be here and so excited to be in this fabulous circle of powerful women. So, why are we having this? So Donna and I both were realizing that in our practices, so I'm a licensed marriage and family, I should introduce myself. I'm Audrey Nelson, licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a private practice I'm also a single mom by choice of twin 9-year-olds, which means I'm the only parent. And I do a ton of volunteer work for the school. So, I live what we are talking about today. And I still live it. And I have shifted how I live it. But I still have a very robust life. So this is and I love working with women because I think women are amazing and powerful. And one of my life goals is to truly just really contribute to women realizing how flippin' amazing they are. So this is one of the ways. So specifically this workshop, Donna and I were talking about, what patterns are we kind of seeing with the people that we work with? And I know for me in my practice, loneliness was one of the patterns, depression and anxiety, and people also really being more busy than ever and having these packed schedules and feeling like they were victim to their schedule. And it had to be that way. There was no other way for it to be. And watching people get lonelier and lonelier and more isolated or increasing habits that were really taking them down. So we decided to go ahead and create this. How do you work with this shit show schedule that you have, and hopefully provide you with some insight into relating to it in a new way, so that you have some choice in the matter, so that you are not victim to your schedule. One thing I do want to say about the structure of today. First of all, I'm getting over COVID. So if you see me go off camera, it's because I'm blowing my nose. And then we don't have any breaks. We really packed in the 2 hours. So take care of yourself. If you need to use the restroom or grab a snack or water, go ahead and do that at any time. We do ask that you keep your cameras on as much as possible, though.
Can I share something real
I
quick,
think that was my, yes.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to back it up and say Audrey and I we met back in 2001 at the University of Santa Monica, where we both got our master's degree in spiritual psychology. And Audrey went on, I went on to take many classes at USM, soul-centered leadership, soul-centered coaching, did consciousness, health, and healing. Audrey went on to study and become a licensed marriage and family therapist through the University of Santa Monica. And so we are going to be looking at life through that lens, through some of the tools that we've learned in spiritual psychology that helps us learn to create by shifting inner, and like whatever's going on the inside is what gets reflected on the outside. And so we know that we can't always change life, but we can change how we're relating to it. And so that's the lens we're going to be looking at things through today. And as Audrey said, we both lived this experience. Hi, Nat. We both lived this experience. For me, it was also raising my son by myself 6 days a week, working full time, coaching on the side, trying to have a life, but really running from sun up to sundown. And I have chosen to make some really big choices in my life to have that be a shift. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But really, the place is like it all started from really recognizing what are the beliefs and patterns that is keeping this whole really super dissatisfying experience running. And when I started to attune to that and make the changes there, the outer changes followed. Okay, so that's where we're headed today. And we know that it's a big deal that you took 2 hours out of your day. And if you already have a shit show schedule, it is no joke that you then chose to be here this morning or afternoon, depending on which coast you're on, to be here and to give yourself this time. So we plan on really taking good care of you, and we invite you to allow yourself to receive whatever you need to receive today. So we are going to start by doing a little grounding, because sometimes when we're in life and we were doing things before, we're worried about things after, it's good to presence ourselves. So I'm just going to invite everybody to take a moment to just put everything down, settle into your seat, lean back into your chair, or however you're being held, and just take a moment to arrive here, even just feeling like, is there any place in your body that can calm down or ease more. Maybe your shoulders are up by your ears and dropping them down. Maybe your hips can lean further back or sink further into the seat you're sitting on. Maybe you can stretch your neck out so that you have a little more space, a little more relaxation, can be a little more present. And let's go ahead and take a deep breath in.
Also, I don't know if we're doing show training.
And let it out.
So turn it off.
One more deep breath in. And let it out. And we are just so, so grateful to have each of you here today. To saying yes to yourself for this opportunity to really create and have a shift in your schedule, in how you're relating to your schedule. We just ask that anything that can be lifted and cleared that no longer serves you at this time be done so now with ease and grace. We also ask that anything that would be of value for you to deepen in, whether that's an awareness of choice, greater connection to your inner guidance, anything along those lines today, we just avail ourselves to all of that. And again, we give deep gratitude for this opportunity to come together, setting the intention that you receive exactly what you need today. Even if you're not sure what you need, just setting the intention that you receive everything that you need. For all of this and so much more, we are grateful. And so it is.
And so it is. Great.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. So
Sure.
welcome to those who just joined us. I want to go ahead and just review some of the guidelines. First of all, this call is being recorded, or this workshop's being recorded. We're really asking people to be as present as possible, and we're going to invite you to not multitask. So to be just present with yourself, present with us, present to the other women in the workshop, and hold space for one another. So that's part of being present and not multitasking is really just maintaining the integrity and the energy of the space and really holding each other as we go through this process together. We're going to request that the chat be used just for answering questions, not for any unprompted sharing or dialogue, because again, we want to keep the focus and the energy present together in this space. And if you do have a question, go ahead and raise your digital hand. So if you have your screen minimized, you might have to hit more and then go into, I think it's called reaction, or you can go straight to raise hand, or there's reactions is an option. You can choose to raise your hand and we'll do our best to pay attention and get to any questions that you have. There will be an opportunity for a little bit of sharing as we go through as well. So if you agree to these guidelines, if you could just give us a thumbs up so we know that everybody's on the same wavelength, that would be great. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, Annette, thank you. Okay. So go ahead and grab your journals. I know that Donna talked a little bit in the grounding exercise about intention. So we're really committed that you get the most out of what you came here for today and what it is that you want to get. So we're going to invite you to set an intention, and an intention is like a framework for everything, all the work that you're going to be doing today. So really, again, bringing your energy in to really support what it is that you want to get out of your precious time that you're spending here with us. So in your journal, write down what you intend to receive in today's workshop. So some examples could be, my intention is to have a breakthrough around being overscheduled. My intention is to receive exactly what I need today, even if you don't know what that is, just saying, I intend to receive exactly what I need. Maybe to have more ease in your schedule. My intention is to learn a new way of thinking about my schedule so I can experience greater levels of peace. Um, is that clear to everybody? Those? Okay, great. So go ahead. We'll give you about a minute or so. Just go ahead and write your intention in your journal. Got about a minute, Donna?
Yep.
Okay, great. So now what I'd like to do is we really want to again have your energy in the space, and this is also a tool that you can take for intention setting in any area of your life. So one of the things that you can do is when you're trying to manifest something or you're wanting to bring an intention to fruition for yourself is to speak it out loud and really have the universe affirm what it is that you're stating for yourself. So I'm going to ask that everybody just quickly start with your first name. Just say your name and what your intention is. And we're just going to go through everybody who's in the room. So Julie, we'll go ahead and start with you. And make sure you unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. So my intention for today is to leave with some value and insight. My intention today is also to practice staying present because I tend to ruminate on other things and it's hard for me to stay present. So I'd like to practice that today, and that's my intent.
And what's your name?
Julie Timko.
Great. Okay. Rosalind, go ahead.
Okay, my intention is to
My
find
name
about.
is.
Oh, my name is Rosalind. Sorry.
Okay.
My intention is to find a balance between self-care and effectively achieving my to-do list, which is very long, and to receive the exact guidance I need to achieve these results.
Nice.
Great. Thank you. Jenny, and start with your name.
Okay, there. My name is Jenny Sear, and my intention is to be present and open-minded to new ideas.
Nice.
Great. Thank you. Val. She might be doing something else. Okay. Annette.
Hi, my name is Annette. My intention is to receive everything I need to receive today through this class modality. I'm here because I was called to be here. I give up the need to know, open to receive.
Ooh.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, Val, I see you now. Go ahead.
Sorry, technically deficient here, obviously. Hi, my name is Valerie Wall. My intention is to learn some tools and tips for those moments. Well, it's more than moments where I'm feeling like things are too chaotic and I don't have control, but I know that I am actually a person who has control on things and I can manage things. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, Christy.
My name is Christy, and mine are similar to Val's actually, who just spoke. I want to get clear about my time and my priorities and to be able to communicate that with others clearly and like kind but firm. And then also if I find myself feeling overbooked and overwhelmed, as I sure I'll still like struggle to nail it every time, to try and give myself non-victim thoughts, like more empowering thoughts, like I feel overwhelmed, but I can do this. I can show up for myself, and I'm learning as I go, just less overwhelmed thoughts that kind of defeat me.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Great. Awesome group of women. I'm very excited. Okay, so let's dive in.
All right.
Donna, go.
Yeah. So let's start with how the heck did we all get here? To these shit show schedules, to these overpacked lives, to the overwhelming, amount of to-dos that you've all just referenced in your intentions. So let's think about it, right? For many of us, it's what we witnessed growing up. Our mothers, grandmothers, aunts, neighbors, teachers, seeing women handle all the emotional labor, juggling all the tasks. We've been conditioned to, AKA, when I say conditioning, meaning like we've taken on beliefs and ways of being that are not ours, but have been like, ingrained in us. We've been conditioned to be helpful, to prioritize the other, to be the one who makes all the plans in the family, to be self-sacrificing and not have any time to foster any sort of relationship with ourselves. We're juggling families, careers, volunteer work, health, friendships, etc. And we keep telling ourselves the belief that we have to keep going. We have to keep things going. We have to keep things in place. We take on those conditionings, as I said, from the people in our lives, but also through our culture, our work environments, TV, movies, etc. And all of this leads us to getting used to. In fact, I was told by a mentor of mine that I wore struggle like a badge of honor. And then I had another mentor tell me that like I was addicted to struggle. And it's like, I had just learned to tolerate so much. And but we've been taught that tolerate, self-abandon, make do, make shit happen. And all of this is leading us to feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, and lonely, like Audrey was talking about in the beginning. And a lot of us have taken on the idea that we have to do it all, and we have to do it all ourselves, either because we don't have people around us, or we have beliefs that or we've been experiencing people not being able to meet us exactly the way that we need. And the confusing part about all of this is how we're praised for our strength, for our ability to juggle and manage so much. We're praised for the amount we can get done in a day, and praised for our selflessness and thoughtfulness. I used to call it, I felt like I was always wearing my Wonder Woman cape, but I started wearing it everywhere, including the bathroom and the grocery store and, whatever I was doing, I was never taking off the cape because I was really affirmed for being that person. So these patterns are having a huge impact on our lives, on our bodies, our finances, our relationships, with ourselves. And it's like who we authentically are, what we authentically want at our most essential and aligned self gets totally buried in the life of have-tos. And from this place, it feels like there's nothing we could do that would make a difference. It's like, I think it said it on our website. It's like, the food is not going to cook itself. The kids need to be fed. The bills need to be paid. The job needs to be done. The parents need to be taken care of. Our bodies need certain nutrients and movement to stay healthy. And so it feels like this is just the way it is. This is just the way it has to be. So how the hell do we even have a shot at creating a different experience if this is the way things are in the world? And as we mentioned earlier, it really is about what Audrey and I learned in spiritual psychology is this principle that outer reality is a reflection of inner experience. So outer reality, right now, our schedules, is a reflection of our inner experience, the beliefs that we have, the conditioning that we received. So if we want it to be different on the outside, we got to start by shifting things on the inside. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. So we're going to look at what beliefs and conditionings running the show which then drives our choices, so that little by little we can start to make more conscious and intentional actions. And then, like, I believe it was Christy that said, also learning how can we talk to ourselves in a different way so we're not adding to the pressure. It's like maybe our schedule doesn't change all that much, but if we adjust the way we're talking to ourselves and relating to it, will have a different inner experience. So Audrey and I are going to share a little bit about our background and, you know, how we like unpacked this in our own lives. And Audrey's going to start with that.
Donna, before I tell a little bit about my story, I want to highlight, the thing about getting praise for doing so much. One of the things that I see all the time in my practice and with my girlfriends in my personal life is that we also praise ourselves for that. So it's like we think that we're good, or we did such a good job, or we even get an elevated mood when we mark those items off the to-do list. And it can even dip into our feelings of self-worth, of like, we are worthy human beings if we do X amount, and if we don't, then we're not. Does anybody relate to that at all? Just a hand. I hear it all the time. Okay.
Yeah. Can I add one thing there too, Audrey?
Yeah.
I had, Audrey was hearing a lot in her practice about people feeling lonely and stressed and anxious because of their schedule. And one of the big things that I kept hearing was similar to what she just referenced. People feeling like, I feel so good because I got so much done. And then they'd come the next week to their coaching session and they'd be like, I didn't do anything. And there'd be like shame and blame and like judging themselves. And it's like, you just produced an insane amount of stuff these last few weeks. Of course, you're going to need time and space, but because of the identification and the validation we give ourselves and we receive from outer world, we're living in a culture that does not value, in many places, does not value rest, rejuvenation, saying no, taking care of yourself. It's like, it's not affirmed. So it's got to start within. And often, things kind of hit the fan before that can happen. Yeah.
So a little bit about my story is, it was some years ago that I was, doing the parenting thing. I'm the only parent at the time. My mom was still alive and she was aging. And so I was taking care of her, taking care of my kids. My kids are very active. So, is packing all the lunches, doing all the teacher communication, driving them to all of their events and doing all the things, and then having a full-time practice as a therapist. And then, I'd put the kids to bed around 7:30, and then I would jump onto an online therapy platform that I was working for, and I would work until 11 o'clock at night. And so I was just output, working all day and all night. And I found myself, gaining more weight, binge eating at night at 11 o'clock at night, to soothe myself, not getting ahead financially, not making ends meet, even though I was working that much. And I was really being run by my belief that, I had to work hard. I come from a line of women, very strong women who even, back in the day, it was like taboo for women to work outside the home, and they were working. And then my mom was a hard worker, and work was just very valued in our family system. And so I also had the belief that the amount of success, however you define success, money or feeling good about yourself, or getting a certain position at your job, whatever that is, it was equally met with how much effort you put out. So I kept thinking, I have to put this much effort out and keep going, and I'd be okay if every waking hour was packed with work. And I was depleted. I was shriveling up, and I was depressed, and I was quick to anger with my kids. I was very easily frustrated. I just felt like I was hollow. It was like a shell of a person. So I called Donna and I was like, I need some help. I need some coaching with this. And she said, okay, well, this is not sustainable. And you need to, first of all, quit the evening job and raise your fees. And I was like, hell no, everyone's going to leave. People can't afford my fees, and therapy's so expensive. Even though I am a therapist, it's like therapy's expensive. And all this old dialogue came up about how that can't happen. And the worth came up about, like, I can't ask for more money. And all this stuff came up that I had to sit with the discomfort about what that was. But through coaching with her, and really looking at what was being sacrificed and my beliefs around my lifestyle, I shifted those and did raise my fees. Nobody left. Incoming clients were fine with the fee that I had set, and I was making more money than ever in less time, and able to support my family and have more patience and all of those things. So, I think that that's a great example of my inner experience, looking there first and shifting the belief system that I needed to shift. And even though it was uncomfortable, because it was really uncomfortable in the beginning, but I kept working through the discomfort to make the changes in the outer world, or I like to call it the form world, the stuff that we're dealing with. So that's a little bit about my story. Donna?
Beautiful. And just so you know, everyone, you're all going to have a chance to look at your own story in a little bit. But Audrey and I felt like you hearing what we've had to walk through in order to make the shifts would be helpful for you to kind of loosen some knot holes as you're exploring your own side. So for me, mine was happening about my shit show schedule was running in full form back in 2016. As I mentioned earlier, I was working a full-time job, coaching on the side. I had my son who was in like 4th grade at the time, maybe a little younger. He has ADHD. I had him 6 days a week. His dad had a crazy schedule, so I was the mom basically handling everything. He didn't live close enough to help out all the time. So I was running full tilt, and my job that I had at the time was super complex and tons of details and lots of things that used to really excite me and thrill me, being in charge of like all the details. And all of a sudden, about a year after I got divorced, where I'm now handling everything in the home by myself, having my kid 6 days a week alone, juggling all of those things. And I just kept going, like, I'm fine. I just kept head down, got to make this happen. This is what it requires, da 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 da. But then I was finding that like on that one night a week where I had my son was off, I'd be like, I'm just going to go out and have a few drinks. And before you know it, I was like not remembering the night before, drinking to blackout most of those times. I was the events that I used to love putting on, I was crying after every event. And I was like, I don't understand why this used to fill me. And now I'm crying after every event. And then I went to the doctor that year and I had gained 50 pounds. 50 in 1 year because of the intensity and the pressurized life I was living. And so I started to, but even with all those things, I still wasn't really seeing it until I started, like, I had friends that were starting to reflect to me that they were worried about me. And so I really started working with a coach, and we really were like breaking it down and helping me get visible to all, because I kept saying things like, I don't understand why I can't just handle all this. What's the problem? Like, it's just dishes. Why am I crying when I see the dishes now? Like, and my friends would be like, it's not the dishes, it's everything else that you have going on. And it was really a lot of patterning and beliefs around like, I don't want to burden anyone. I don't want to inconvenience anyone. Like, I didn't want, I kept going, my ex, he was totally willing to help, but he kept going, but I can't because my job, I have this crazy schedule. And I just kept buying into that. And then one day I was like, how about you tell them you can't work all these crazy hours because you have a kid and you need to be able to help me with the kid. And it was like, ding, ding, ding. Like I started to recognize, oh, I can ask for more of what I need. I don't just have to accept that that's the way it is. I did the same thing in my job. I was in charge of producing events, and our staff was going to Paris for an event. And I just said to my boss, I was like, I cannot go. I cannot pull that off on top of everything else. And it was super inconvenient to the company and to her. And we figured out a way to make it happen. And again, I had to, like Audrey, really look at these places where it felt so uncomfortable to say what I authentically wanted and needed. And it felt like it was not going to happen. And each time the shift occurred because I was willing to like work through my discomfort and move past my ideas that asking for help is weak, that I'm going to be a burden on the system if I have what I need. So I can say where I ended up being guided was, you know, that particular environment was never going to be a place where I could have spaciousness in my schedule. So I ended up leaving and feeling called to leave. And I left and started my own coaching practice where I now work about 15 to 20 hours a week versus 50 to 60 hours a week between coaching and working a full-time job. And my son's older now. So, but it all started with, what are the beliefs that are keeping this all in place? And how can I start cracking through all of that? So that's what we're going to focus on more today with all of you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks, Donna.
Yeah.
So now we're going to turn to all of you that are here. So this is our first exercise. So go ahead and grab your journals again, and we're going to do an exercise around your current reality. So we're going to invite you to get really clear about where you're currently at in your day-to-day schedule. So what we'd like for you to do is write out your schedule from the time you wake up until you go to bed. So I mean detailed. Get up, feed the cat, use the restroom, feed the kid, feed myself, get ready for school, get ready for work, check email, whatever it is that you do from morning to night, go ahead and just write a list of the things that you do. We'll set the timer for 2 minutes. So go ahead and start now. Okay, so go ahead and bring that to a close. So just quickly, just inside yourself, just notice what's present right now inside yourself after writing your schedule. Just notice what you're feeling. Just a quick check-in, how that feels to really review your daily life. And I'm going to invite you to look at how this schedule that you have just written down, how it impacts you in another way. What's the byproduct? What's the symptoms that show up with how you're living? So it could also be said another way, is there a something that came up for you that prompted you to register for this workshop? Like, oh, I'm feeling really overwhelmed, or I'm, whatever it is. So just get present to that. So there's some sort of a cost here that we all could be experiencing based on our current daily life. So some examples are crying at the drop of a hat, easy to frustration, getting sick more often, forgetting things you're normally on top of, more resentment coming up, resentment towards people, resentment towards yourself, more self-judgment, negative self-talk, short fuse, less patience, less kind, not experiencing joy or fun, not as loving, not as free and open with your expression of your loving, um, anxious, depressed, over drinking, overeating, under eating, anything like that that could be coming up. So just noticing when you look at your behaviors and or feelings that are a product of how your current schedule is in your current daily life, I'm going to invite you to take 1 minute to go ahead and write those down. And if you feel called to share, I'm also going to invite you to share some of those in the chat.
Yeah, Val. Yep. Physical and mental exhaustion. Yep. And maybe Val, write down how that shows up for you. Like, is your body in pain? Are you not able to focus? Like, get more specific about that.
Okay. Anybody else have any they'd like to share in the chat? Anything that you were present to that came forward? Donna, do you want to move to the coping piece?
I see people typing a little bit. I feel like
Okay.
always be doing more. Okay. Yeah. So how does that manifest for you, Annette? Does that start to feel like anxiety? Do you feel like it makes you short-tempered? Julie, take frustration out on your poor husband. Get that one. Yeah. Feel guilty. Got it. Wanting to shut the world out, Rosalind says. Drinking after a crazy day. Yeah. Procrastinating what I used to love. Right. Now, the reason we're also having you all look at it. Oh, and I feel lazy. Your dad used to call you lazy. Right. Yeah. That idea of like, yeah, we take on the conditioning of what other people have said, and then we start to act out of that. And like Audrey and I were saying in our examples, we had to get really clear on how our life was and then start seeing the impact on that so that we could move to how can we do this differently? Because a lot of times we all just keep going, this is the way it is, and I'm fine. I just head down, keep going. But when we start getting more conscious of the impact it's having, like Audrey was, I remember when she called me, she was like, I hate the way I'm being with my kids. I'm pressuring them to get to bed so I can get back to work. Or I was like coming home and my poor kid just wanted to play. And I was just like, I just need a break. And I was just frustrated all the time. And it was like, I started to see what it was costing me. So, having guilt running you or not wanting to be lazy starts to like, keeps you running in a way that isn't authentic to you, right, Annette? Like, and Christy, I'm afraid I'm going to drop the ball on something important, but I'm rushing through things and not being present, right? Yeah. It has a cost to our system to keep living in these ways, to keep living out of the conditioning. And so good. I really acknowledge everybody for sharing. And Audrey, anything you wanted to add to that?
I just also want to acknowledge, Christy's comment up top too about she gets kind of amped up, ready to go, and then there's this kind of bummed or this decline of mood, and how if she doesn't get it done. So it's kind of like it's interesting to see how these inanimate objects, these things that we're doing, this stuff, it is important stuff. I don't mean to minimize it. Like you got to feed your kids, Um, although I wish there was like you don't have to feed your kid days, but that doesn't happen. But it's interesting how these things, these tasks are like they can definitely affect our mood and then our beliefs, and then how we relate to ourselves. So go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, no, it's so important. And so often, if we're buying into the belief of like, there's nothing we can do, this is just the way it is, we develop coping strategies for like dealing with it, to like, because our systems are wired to like feel better. But if we don't think that we can change our schedule or say no to something, or just rest because we want, because we want to or need to, we're going to do these secondary actions. So I want you to, as you're listening to what I'm sharing, kind of note for yourself. I'll also put it in the chat so that, or yeah, I'll put it in the chat so that you can journal about it afterwards, but just kind of pay attention as I'm going through. So one of the ways people deal with it is we normalize the drowning. Everyone's drowning. Everyone's busy. Everyone's schedule is packed. And so by thinking those thoughts, we just kind of keep the whole thing in play. That's a coping mechanism. We push through, we keep going. We'll say things like, this is temporary. It'll get better when, once so-and-so's at a different age, then it'll get better. Or once I'm done with this event, then it'll get better, or things like that. But yeah, that's a coping strategy. We numb out. So we find different ways to numb out. Maybe it's your numbing out with food, like Audrey and I talked about, maybe alcohol, like I talked about. Maybe it's TV, social media, maybe it's overworking, overcommitting. Like there's ways of like, if I keep going, then I don't have to feel the feelings of it. So, or I'm going to totally numb out so I don't have to attend to any of this. And then there's avoiding things. We avoid things like conversations we need to have, or relationships or friendships, or we start losing interest in what we once loved. We kind of find ourselves, like Audrey was talking about, like how she felt hollow. It's like we start going away in our own lives. It's like we're nowhere on the list. It's all about the things that we have to do. So I want you to take a moment. I'm going to put the list in the chat and take a minute or two to talk about how are you currently coping. And I encourage you not to judge yourself. No judging yourself. Oops, did I copy that? Hold on.
So go ahead and write in your journal for 1 minute about ways that you feel like you're coping with your current daily schedule and coping with the byproduct, the feelings that we talked about just prior.
Okay. And these are all things, I know we're kind of going at a clip because of what we want to introduce today, but these are things that you can go back and reflect on a little bit more.
And so
all of it.
We'll just invite anybody to share anything in the chat, anything that came up if you're willing.
Netflix.
What did you say, Donna?
I was reading Christie's Netflix numb out.
Yeah.
That's my go-to. Annette, news and TikTok. Got it.
Yeah, I love that TikTok.
And listen, we are not downplaying Netflix or TikTok or any of these actions. We're just recognizing how we're using them.
Yes. And I want to say, we're not also taking you down the path of taking any of this away.
Yeah.
What this is about is shifting your relationship to it. so that it's conscious and it's a choice. It's like you can say, I've had a lot. I'm going to acknowledge how challenging this has been, or ooh, I noticed I did say a yes when it was a no for me, and I'm going to forgive myself for that. And I'm going to give myself 2 hours of TikTok or Netflix, but at least you're in the game. You're not victim to it. You are actively choosing it and you're aware.
Yeah, I have a client that totally gets so down on herself when she lets herself scroll too long. And we've had to slow it down and be like, can you see why you're doing it? And if you can see why you're doing it, like Audrey was basically saying, it's like when we can see why we're doing it, then we get to go like, huh, if I really don't want to be scrolling that much, or like Christy's saying, bailing on fun things she had planned with their friends, at some point you get to go, huh, maybe I want to do this differently. Maybe I want to like make some shifts so that I'm like not just forcing myself to go out with my friends and have fun, but maybe some things need to shift in my life so I have more space and capacity for that. But I think there's a big conversation that can be had around capacity and like feeling like if we have free time, we should fill it. And then if we do all of that stuff, that could be a whole other conversation. But just conscious is the key right now. Anybody else want to share some of the things that they find themselves doing? It's okay if you don't, but it's good to kind of, for all of us to acknowledge what's going on. Okay, no problem. So let's talk about then how do we shift this? Now that you can see, okay, I'm running from sunup to sundown, or, however my schedule looks, it's causing me to feel X, Y, and Z, and to, feel guilty or feel overwhelmed or feel anxious and all the things you noticed. And then you're like, and in addition to that, then to deal with it, I'm doing these behaviors that aren't really fulfilling me because I don't have capacity. And so the question to start with is, do I want this to be different? Am I ready to at least open up to like, how can I just give myself more grace here? Right? So we're going to start with how the shift occurs. So let me just look at my notes really quick because I realized I went off point there for a second. So the way the world wants us, when it looks like things need to change in our lives, out in the world, they talk about, well, what actions can you take? Maybe you need a new calendar. Maybe you need a different scheduling system. Maybe you need to just be more efficient. Maybe you need to be, like it's all about like, how can you manage the intent, all the things that are happening? And those are definitely helpful once you listen to what you authentically need. For there to be a real shift, we first have to identify and release the limiting beliefs that are keeping that in place. Okay. So just like Audrey and I had to look into our lives, and Audrey was sharing, like she had to look at her beliefs about working hard, and the amount of hard work equates the amount of success you have. For me, it was like, I don't want to be a bother. I don't, want to be a burden to people. I don't want to inconvenience people. And so these were the linchpins that were keeping certain experiences in place. So we're going to have you, so they might be beliefs about asking for help. There might be some limiting beliefs about it being easier to do things for yourself. And we're going to put these examples in the chat in a second, but beliefs around not being empowered or not being able to change things. Let's see, beliefs about needing to keep up with others. That was a big one for me. I have a very different energy system than my sister Amy does. So I compare myself to her a lot and then feel guilty that I can only handle a certain, I have a different capacity. I might have beliefs around needing to excel, or beliefs that I can't say no, or beliefs that I have to be nice and be helpful. So we're going to have you look into your own life and go, what are, and Annette put in a big one, like, oh, I have to be, my dad used to say I was lazy. So she's got beliefs that if she's resting or not producing, she's lazy. So we want you to start to unpack, what are those beliefs? So Audrey, you're going to set them up for the exercise?
Yes. And I'd like to share one of my beliefs was, because I chose to have my kids on my own. Mine was, if I chose to have these kids by myself, then I have to do everything by myself.
Mm.
I can't ask for help. I have to do it. I have to provide everything. So that's what I was living. That's what I was living into for a time.
I'm so glad you
So
said that, because I used to do that with being divorced. I chose to be divorced, so I just have to handle this all. That was my choice. So I can't complain now, or I've got to just deal with whatever the fallout is from that.
So in this exercise around limiting beliefs, I just put all the beliefs that Donna listed there in the chat for your reference. And now in your life, go ahead and write out, what beliefs are you creating around your current schedule and the experience of your schedule?
And they may not be beliefs that you're creating, but beliefs that you're running. Like, just because, like Annette was saying, oh, my dad used to call me lazy. So now I'm running that belief in the background. Not consciously, usually.
So we're going to have 3 minutes for this. So we'll go ahead and start that now.
Okay, go ahead and wrap that up. The moment to wrap that up. And I'd love to hear, what do you think, Audrey? Just a few shares, like a few people share, like, what are some of the, is there any belief that you just uncovered that you were like, I did not really realize that was running me, or just that you wanted to acknowledge, I just realized, that this is running me? Who'd like to share? No
And
one.
who's too shy to share but willing to stretch?
Julie, believe that I'm not lovable, not good enough. Julie, is it okay if I read that out loud? In case everybody's not raised. So Julie wrote, I believe that I'm not lovable, that I'm not good enough, feel like I'm always trying to prove that I am those things to other people. So I overschedule, become a people pleaser, and I get resentful when I feel like someone's taking advantage of the fact that I'm a people pleaser. I get that one. And it can consume my mind, making me less productive, right? Who can relate to that? I used to, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thank you for being willing to share that. Anyone else? Yeah, Val, put that. Anyone else want to share? It'll help you shift it. Does that help to know if you say it out loud? Brene Brown says, the more you say what you are ashamed of out loud, then it helps shift it because it can't hold
So,
shame today. Oh, go Valerie.
do you want us to speak or to write?
Speak it. You can speak
Okay.
it.
Oh yeah. So despite, ages and ages of having, success in the professional world, being in a place where, I forget who said like, you're not lazy. And, some of you said like, you're always running and doing things. But anyway, so despite having many years of good success and, great feedback, then feeling like any moment of like not hearing, no, I should say, any, there's an expectation of delivery, right? That like then just keeps me like in panic mode all the time, even though, I'm at a point in my career and life where I shouldn't be feeling panic mode. And, it becomes just emotionally draining and exhausting and distressing and depressing. And yeah, then feed into it, right? To try to overcome it and just makes it all worse.
Yes. Oh
So,
my.
so Valerie, may I take it one step further with you? Do I have your permission to do that?
You do. I'm a little scared. So if I shut down, Audrey.
So I just want to get really clear and succinct to tie it into the exercise. So what I'm hearing is like, if I don't keep this up, then. So like, what's that? What's that belief that's running? If I don't keep this up,
Oh.
then.
Oh yeah, then I'm, at risk of losing my my job, my career.
Yeah.
And, as a sole parent as well, and, Audrey, everything you said about feeling like, well, I made this choice, so of course, I have to, so there's a reality, it all lands on me. And then that like fear of like, oh, F, like, like I don't want to, how do I avoid causing a bigger problem, right? Although the problem that's in front of me seems pretty big every day of like, trying to keep this all up.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Rosalind, may I read yours? So I'm not worthy of success unless I keep up my momentum. No one knows how to do what I'm trying to do. Yes, hear that a lot. I can't lose my momentum. I've already lost too much. So if there's any kind of a pause or any kind of a different way of doing it, then there will be this shift that could be detrimental. So that's like a lot of pressure to keep going, kind of like what Valerie was just saying too. And I hear that a lot too, Rosalind, about nobody knows how to do what I'm doing, or nobody does it the way that I like it done, or it's will be most efficient or most timely if I do it. And I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot from women and a lot from moms, really, who really do everything and really carry this belief that things will fall apart if they're not done that specific way. Meanwhile, the mom's falling apart, or whoever it is falling apart. So yes, I think I hear that. I hear that.
And one thing that may not be conscious to everyone, to everyone on this call, but a lot of the work that I do with people is around, like, we all have this idea and we're all referencing it in shares right now. It's like, if I don't keep it going, if I don't keep this, like there's all this and it can look like even in our world, like, you know, okay, I'm a single parent, you know, when I had Aiden 6 days a week by myself, I'm like, it's up to me. One of the things that helped me shift that was also to shift and for your consideration, wherever you are in your own spiritual journey, also this like there's a belief of like, if I don't do it myself, like, or if I were to make certain choices, I'm afraid it's all going to fall apart. Like life's not going to have me. The life, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And that can keep a lot of things without that belief being addressed, this belief that there's something greater than me kind of holding me and like, that's not to say like, I'm going to go live on a desert island and then everything will be fine and whatever. It's more like, I feel held by if I'm being guided to slow down. Like I left a job now this is me. I'm not suggesting this to anyone, but it's like when I finally left my job, I didn't have a big cash cushion in the bank. And I just knew, because of years of like having practiced following my inner guidance and really trusting that I was going to be held, that it would work out somehow. And it did, thank God. But it really pressed me to like go, what are my beliefs about being held by something even greater than me in co-creation, not just like, I'm just going to turn it all over and just not do anything, but just like that I'm partnering with something greater than me. So just want to put that in there as a belief to look at as well. What are your thoughts about being held by something greater than you? Yeah.
And that comes down to trust. I think trust is a really big piece in this too. For those of us who are used to holding everything together and being the ones that do it all, and we have evidence that, yes, if I'm the one that does it, it will get done. I think that can put us into this place where it's really challenging to trust that things will get done without us or without the way that we do it, and really hard to trust that we can be taken care of and held by someone or something else.
Yes. And
So,
no, go ahead.
So I encourage all of us, today to just maybe note it in your journal, like trust. What's your relationship to trust? And how does that tie in with how you relate to your daily schedule?
Yeah. And I would say, even listening to like Audrey's example or my example, it's like in both cases, we had to take a risk. Like Audrey's like, people are going to leave my business. No one's going to pay that fee, and that fear and that belief were coming up. And then she had to trust, like, I got to go for it anyway. And it usually it works out. And we can look back and start tracking, where has it worked out? I know I'm afraid it's not going to work out today, but if I look back to those moments where it did work out, that helps my nervous system relax and build trust, because I look for evidence in my own life rather than just some like vague concept of trust. It's like, actually, if I look at it, every time I was guided, and did it, it's worked out. So for your consideration. Okay. Anybody else want to share before we move on? Everyone feeling good? Do we want to do a shake, a shimmy, a wake up moment here? And yeah, go Annette, go Annette. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. So let's look at then, how do we change? We all got really in contact with these beliefs that are running in our head and these thoughts. And so the thing is many of us walk around believing that those thoughts and thoughts like these are who we authentically are. They're like, I'm worried, I'm afraid, I'm scared, all of these things. But these are the beliefs. These thoughts and beliefs are the voice of your conditioning and or your ego. And our egos are designed for comfort and control. It prefers to be with the devil it knows than some new devil. So like, it's going to keep you stuck in patterns. It's not who you authentically are, because each of us has an inner wisdom, an inner guidance, what Audrey and I call like our most aligned self, or our higher self. that's the place of wisdom and guidance that we want to be listening to. Because again, if we're really living, our outer reality proceeds from our inner beliefs and experience, then we got to be like, well, which voice do I want to listen to? Because the one that's currently running the show is running a lot of fear and doubt and whatnot. So Audrey and I are going to walk you through how do you know if something's your conditioned self / your ego versus your aligned self? So Audrey, do you want to start?
So some examples of that conditioned part, and Donna will put them in the chat too, but or the ego is fear, anxiety, worry, doubt, concern, resistance, sad, anger, frustration, criticism, judgmental, disempowered, low or no energy, referencing the past often, staying stuck in the past, caught up in problem solving or fixing, again, like getting a new calendar, getting, changing the systems, focusing on the outside. The world feels small, or no or little self-insight. So that's kind of that ego state or that conditioned self state.
Yeah. Beautiful. And let me just hit, so the other side then is like, what does our inner wisdom, our aligned self sound and feel like? So you'll notice when you're listening into that voice, you'll feel grounded. It will feel loving, clear, neutral, balanced, compassionate, kind, open, trusting. It'll feel empowered. You'll be able to see choices and possibility. It'll feel calm or affirming. It might feel energizing. You might feel an experience of like ease or peace, flow. There'll be like effortless momentum, creativity. And when you're looking at through that lens, it's like you can meet the unknown with more like openness, wonder, excitement, because it sees possibility. Okay. So any questions about those two different lenses to be looking through? Can everyone feel that? I mean, it's a pretty obvious thing, but just want to make sure everybody can see the difference between the two.
I love it, Donna. It's so funny that you went right to this, because that was one of my beliefs, is like, manifest destiny. Is it really my calling, or is it my ego running the show? Oh God, why can't I just go to the beach? Because that's what I deal with. I deal with that a lot. Being a Black woman in this time and environment, I feel like it's I need to go out there and like get more voters. I need to do this. No one else is going to do it. I need to be out in the streets. I need to go and work on this thing. I need to be on this committee. If I'm not on this committee, who's going to hold it down for the people of color down here in North Carolina?
Right.
So I get like this. So this helps.
Yeah. It's like that. I so acknowledge you, Annette, for bringing that up, because that is how so many of us live life, is like, not with your specific example, but just that space of like panic and like, I've got to, and who else will, and what's happening. But if we can slow it down and go like, well, what's mine to do? If I listen to my wisdom, is it of highest service to go over there and do that? Or is there one thing out of all of that that would benefit most from me showing up, rather than that panic of like, I got to have it all down and covered and be everywhere and be everything. And then we don't feel used well. It's like we don't feel well, or we don't feel like we're being of service. And it's anxiety producing. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I so acknowledge you. Yeah. Anyone else have anything they want to about these two lenses? Audrey, anything you want to share about like when you were going through COVID?
I just want to be sure that, has everybody had the experience of having that experience of that aligned self? It's kind of like when somebody asks you to do something and you don't want to do it, and you really say the no, and you feel like you're aligned, like that inner part of you, that gut feeling, that initial response came up, and then your action followed it, and you were aligned. And there was this experience of feeling loving towards yourself, good about yourself. There was that experience of energy kind of pulsating, forward momentum, a lift. Has anybody ever had that? I just want to make sure that everybody at least has a reference point for that. Okay. Okay, good.
Wow. Because it's interesting. I was just going back and looking up through the chat, right? It's like, so like for Julie, you were saying like, oh, I'm trying to find your share, but it was like you were going like, if I don't live up to that, if I don't stay on top of it, I might let people down, then they take advantage of my people pleasing. It's like, can you see that from that lens? Which lens are you looking through? If you're worried about people and their responses, and then you're feeling guilty, it's like, can you see you're in your conditioned self in that moment?
100%. And then when I align with it, it's like I get a high from it because I'm so used to my entire life not doing that. So now I'm aligned. I took care of myself guilt-free. I didn't sit there and like ruminate in guilt, or sit there and feel like I did something wrong, or why did I do that? Or, oh gosh, they're going to be mad at me. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
And so releasing that has helped me to do that in other parts of my life. So if I take care of myself in a relationship that has really kept me down for years, and suddenly I have the strength and the power to be fully aligned in who I truly am, then that gives me, I mean, because the other side is anxiety ridden. Oh my gosh, this person's not going to like me. Oh my gosh, this person's going to get mad at me. Let me prioritize them over me, which means that I'm prioritizing them over my entire family. And then I align and I'm like, this is the feeling that I want. And so it's helped strengthen me to every time, not every time, I'm not perfect yet, but every time that does come up, I'm like, I got this. I can do this because I know how good that feels. And that to me feels better than somebody being happy with me because I made them my priority.
Absolutely. So beautiful. Yes. Yes. One thing I'll add to that is there are times where we can hear. So Annette, can I use you as an example? So here you have like, you're having all these feelings come up, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I should be here. I should be there. I should be on top of this. Who's going to represent the Black woman? Who's going to do this? And then if you were to slow it down and listen to where you authentically want to be of highest support, where you're being drawn to be of support, where would that be? If you were to really listen.
So this really happened. So where I'm drawn to be is like in a leadership position on a board. So I'm not necessarily running around in the streets, as they say, but like being in a leadership position so I can guide. Yes. Versus
right,
and driving my car and picking people up, and so that would be of my highest serving and of my highest good.
Yes. Now, is there any part of you that's like, but what about like still worried? Because sometimes we get that aligned, like I got this aligned. I checked in with my higher self, and it was like, you should quit your job. And I was like, are you fucking crazy? Like, pardon my French. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, you're a single mom and like you live in New York City. You can't just quit your job. But that was the guidance I kept getting. So I had to do, I call it the sacred tussle. There starts to be this, like, it's not always like it's going to feel good it will feel good if I do that, but there might also still be parts of me, my conditioned self, that is not quite on board yet. And we, there are ways to like work with that part of yourself and reassure that part of yourself that it's like, okay, we're not quitting today, but we will move. Like, I'm going to make sure we're safe. So I want to also say that sometimes hearing our inner guidance can bring up more it might not always feel as good as what Julie's talking about. I'm so glad you're having that experience. It does happen at times. But if you are having the sacred tussle, know that that's okay too. It's you're learning how to work with the parts of you that still are scared or nervous or worried or concerned. But the more you can bring it back to like, but we're going to do what we're guided to do. Somehow that'll all get handled, like things like that. Does that make sense? So I don't want you to feel bad if you're like in the sacred tussle, because it's an important, think of it as like reps for your soul. It's like reps for your for your inner, following your inner guidance.
Like it.
Yeah. Is that helpful?
Very.
Anything else you'd add to that, Audrey?
Well, just with what you're saying, it's like, yes, it's just noticing our human part. It's like we have this new way of being, and we try it on. It's like, oh, that feels good. But then the minute that maybe we don't do it and we make a different choice, then that ego state comes in again and judges us. So what we're going for is the insight that there is a choice to relate to something in a different way. So, it's not about doing something, consistently, making an aligned choice consistently, because we are still human beings. And human beings, we have a bunch of parts in us and a bunch of feelings in us, but it's looking at, it's gathering information. It's going, oh, look at that. I made a choice that was not aligned. Let's track that. Let's see. Oh yeah, I didn't sleep for 3 nights in a row. And I binged on like a bag of tortilla chips. And so I was way more cloudy and exhausted the morning of when I had to make that choice. So like, I'm going to get rest, and I'm going to, schedule my binge for another night or something, or not do it, or be more conscious of it, whatever the choices that you make around that. But it's about really being gentle with yourself, but having the insight that there is a choice.
Yes. And
Yeah.
Audrey, would you mind sharing? I love recently you shared a story with me because you just had COVID, and how, as you were entering back into your typical schedule, like you made a huge shift. Do you want to?
Oh, yes. So usually what I do, so I had COVID and I was laid out, and usually I don't get sick, but I was sick for an entire week. And so I knew that I had to make money still to pay the bills and support my family. And so I knew that the week after COVID was going to be really busy, and it was. And the old way of being would have been like, okay, I have to push through, head down, not a lot of time to talk to my girlfriends. Like, I just have to get through it. And it was just like nose to the grindstone way of relating. And this time I did something else. It's like I looked at the list of the aligned self and I went, how can I weave through my week to make sure that I have these components of, having some ease, some joy. One of mine is beauty. I love beauty. So aesthetic beauty, seeing things around me, it makes me happy. So I went and got myself flowers, made sure I had fresh flowers in my office, made sure that I was drinking out of my favorite water glass, making sure I had my favorite tea. So it's like knowing that I'm going into this really crazy busy week, but I was also coming out of COVID, and that I needed to take care of myself through that. And so looking at my week ahead and seeing how can I weave in myself, how can I also put myself in my schedule and take care of myself?
Yeah.
So I think that piece is really important too. And I could choose. I could do it the old way, or I could do it the new way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what's so important about that is, as Audrey and I have said, we're in different places as it relates to our schedules. I've created my life where it's, I've had the ability to like slow things way down and whatnot. And she's in a different place with her kiddos and where she is with her practice. And so it is important. Our guidance may be telling us that we do need to make a big change in our life, right? That may be where you're headed. Doesn't have to be where you get right after this call. It doesn't have to be, but that might be where your guidance is taking you. And for others, you might be at a stage of life where it's like the message is, it's not about letting things go. Like, I can't just all of a sudden stop taking care of my kids. I can't stop, like, I have a business to run. I've got, there's things I may still have a full life, but how can I, like Audrey was saying, how do I put myself in there? How do I relate to it differently so I feel better, more empowered? And as we start unpacking those, then it continues to unfold the whole you call it, like a pattern. It's not the pattern anymore. It's like you're the one that's creating it versus it's happening to you. And that's really, so there's no pressure that your whole life looks different after this. But there are places that you can really make some changes.
Yeah. It's empowering. So you're not victim to your schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there are things that you have to do that you hate, then you set up ways of taking care of yourself around that. So that at least you can take off some layers of, oh, this really sucks. Because there's stuff you have to do that sucks, like taxes, So it's like, but you set yourself up so that you cushion around the thing you have to do, some things that bring you joy. And that's where it brings you the power.
Absolutely.
Which is a really good segue into the exercise.
Yes.
So shall we move on to that?
Yes. Let's do it.
Okay. So Donna, just quickly refresh my memory. Is this the exercise where we're going to ask the participants to look at their schedule that they're having next week? Okay, great. So go ahead, everyone. And we had asked you in the email to bring your schedule for next week. So if you have that, go ahead and get that so you have that in front of you.
Schedule
If you don't,
to-do list.
go ahead.
Yeah, just schedule or to-do list. It might not be your calendar, but it might be your to-do list. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't have that, it's fine. You can use the day that you kind of wrote out in the first exercise with our time together today. So whatever works, but preferred if you have your to-do list or your schedule for next week. So go ahead and have that. And what we're going to do is we're going to invite you. And again, this doesn't mean you have to do this exercise. Is about play. It's about being investigative. It's about curiosity, just looking from a different lens. It does not mean you're committing to anything. So I really want you to have freedom to just be in this exercise. So we're going to ask you to look at your schedule or your to-do list for next week from this lens of the aligned self. So just a quick refresher, it's the calm, empowered, trusting, open, kind, balanced, energetic flow, those type of characteristics. And we're really going to slow things down and be very intentional about your week so that you're not in a place of just reacting to the things that you have to do. And we're going to ask you to move from there's nothing I can do about my schedule, nothing I can do about shifting this to-do list, to a place of I am empowered to make some changes. I'm empowered to have some supports. I'm empowered to put myself in the schedule and prioritize myself and have more spaciousness and more intention in your day-to-day routine. So I'm going to ask you some questions.
And I put them in the chat as well. So they
okay, great. So they're in the chat, but I'll go ahead and review them verbally too. So one of the questions is what can you let go of this week? So maybe it's a volunteer role. Maybe it's making dinner one less night. Maybe it's doing the dishes. Use paper plates just for one night. Letting go of needing to be on time. Can you give yourself just shedding a couple of layers of pressure? Can you show up late to something? Can you let go of doing the grocery shopping and order it in? So what can you let go of? The second question is, what can you add? And these will be in the chat, so I'm just reviewing them, and then you can start writing at your own pace. Then the second question is, what can you add that would bring you joy and make you feel good? So like buying flowers, having your favorite tea on hand, lighting your favorite candle, having a favorite meal, calling somebody who makes you laugh your butt off. Um, so what can you add in?
Can I add to that, Audrey, real quick?
Yeah.
And like pay attention to like what it's like if you have a lot of responsibility, then like what is the counterbalance to that? Like if I have a serious week, then I'm going to put in some like I want to watch some really dirty comedians that make me laugh that are totally inappropriate that just like or I'm not going to watch a serious documentary and keep that same tone. I might look at, yeah, it's like if I have a lot going on, can I wear a crazy outfit one day that would just be ridiculous but would bring a smile to my face? Like that's what you're wanting to look at. Okay.
Hey, Donna, you're number 3. Go ahead.
Okay. So then it's another one is like, what can you ask for help with? If you're like, oh my gosh, Tuesday is such a crazy day. Can I ask someone else to pick up my kids from school? Or can I ask someone to pick up a meal and bring it when I usually would like handle ordering it? Can I ask my ex to like take my son to the pediatrician, even though I'm the one that usually goes? Do I need to go? Could he take him? Would that be fine? Can asking your boss, can I start my day from home on Wednesday instead of coming in the morning because I have to do X, Y, and Z, and seeing if you can get accommodations for that. So
Can I
remember,
move a deadline? That's a big one.
I
But
move
you
the
can
deadline.
ask, can I move the
Yeah.
deadline so I can have a little bit more spaciousness?
Yeah. Audrey and I did that with each other throughout the creation of this class. It'd be like, we're going to meet on this day, and then be like, can we shift it so that you know what I mean? Like we worked with each other to support that. And then lastly, it'd be what empowering and helpful messages can I say to myself about my schedule this week? So I know it's like if I'm sitting here going like, oh, I have a shit show week. I know jokingly, Audrey and I called this, shifting your shit show schedule because we wanted it to be a fun title. But it's like, if I'm relating it to like, oh my God, I have a shit show week, or this is insane, or this is crazy, or blah, 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 that creates a certain feeling in your system. So it could be like, I've got a busy week, but I've got this. I'm like a badass. I'm a boss. Like, or I have choice here. I can make different choices. Like whatever the affirming words are that will assist you with having a different inner relationship to what's going on. Those would be ways, or even too specific. It might not be about your whole schedule, but it might be about one particular thing that you're dreading. It's like if you're dreading something and you can't change it, then how do you start talking to yourself differently about that particular thing so that it creates more ease inside of you? So those are the 4 questions. We've popped those in the chat, and we're going to give you 2 to 3 minutes. Again, this is something that if you can't finish it today on the call, you can go and really work on this in your, offline and sit with yourself, but let's give it a go. Try to do a couple of things that you could do in each of the categories. We'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes to work on this.
I'm going to use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay, about 30 more seconds. Okay, go ahead and wrap up wherever you're at. And we'd love to hear a few shares. Who wants to share what they saw, what they're going to do, you know, some of the things you've found in your journaling? Don't be shy.
I'll go. Um, okay. So this is gonna sound like not productive and kind of weird for me because like all in my head it's just like, "Ah, you got to get all this stuff done, blah 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 blah. You're going on this trip and you got to get everything done." Instead, I'm gonna let go of the need to schedule every moment to get caught up before I leave for my trip. I'm gonna add some nights when I do nothing but what I actually feel like doing.
Ooh.
I'm going to ask my husband to look up flowers for Mother's Day and to look up the computer options for his sister. And my statement is going to be that I deserve to take life slowly until I feel ready to take the next steps.
Yes.
Great.
Beautiful.
That's great.
How'd that feel?
It feels really good, actually. It's kind of like a I don't give a fuck kind of attitude that I don't use very often.
That's what it can feel like in the, we should write that down, Audrey. The I don't give a fuck is in the authentic self column.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. That's great.
So beautiful. Who else? Thank you, Rosalind. Yes.
I'll go. So what I can let go of is this call that I have on Thursdays that doesn't light me up at all. And I take Rosalind's because I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to cancel it. I just don't want to talk to you. And I don't have to. I'm going to cancel it.
Nice.
And what can I add to bring me pleasure? I need to go to the beach like a couple times a week for a walk. And I don't do that. I want to add that in my schedule. And then what I can ask for help with. I mean, seriously, I have to recognize that I already have a lot of this stuff going on. I really do. It's like I need to remove myself from where I used to be and really place myself in the present and recognize that I don't have those kind of stresses that I used to have. I have a lot of help. I have a lot of good things going on, but I'm stuck somewhere that like is still a monkey mind going on that I'm somewhere else and I'm not. I'm not. And then what empowering messages I can say to myself is my schedule is awesome, created exactly like I want it, with time and ease and fun and profit. My schedule makes me so much money because I give it time to breathe and multiply and have fun. My schedule works for me, not the other way around.
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, I got
Yes.
on that one. Yes. And maybe adding one in about like, I am in the present. I'm not in the same life as before, or whatever would be more aligned with what you just shared. I think that's
Yes.
important.
Yes. Thank you, Donna. Yes.
Yes. Is it okay if I reference your past career?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Annette was a
Yeah.
producer in television. And so as a fellow producer, we're used to like keeping things on time and making sure everything's happening and looking at every detail, and you aren't living that life anymore. So there's a lot of deconditioning around like, oh, actually, when you find yourself amping up, that's a good mantra for yourself. Nope, I'm in charge of my schedule. This is my life now. I'm not in charge of all of that.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I do have to keep that in front of my mind. So thank you for presencing that for me.
Yes, beautiful. Anyone else?
No one? I'll do a little share that I just noticed about myself. I got a text about a play date and I was responding to it. Um, and I said, "Oh, we'll be there. What can I bring?" And then I went, "Oh, I don't need that second part." So, it's like there's these little things that it's like, there's these little areas where it's like you can make these little shifts, and I don't have to always be bringing something, or I don't have to, it's like, we'll be there. So just so to offer that too, you can make big shifts and you can also make little shifts, but the little shifts, it's going to save me time from going to the grocery store, spending the money, cooking the thing, whatever it is. So it's like that other piece too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good catch, Miss Audrey. Beautiful. All right. So, does anybody else want to share anything about that last exercise? Did everybody get something out of that last exercise? See things that you hadn't seen before? Christie's, Jenny? Yes? Good.
I can share mine.
Great.
Sorry, I'm in a rainy car, so I hope you can hear me okay. But I just jotted down that these are all things I choose for the next week, and I'm going to do my best and then just let the rest go. That was it.
Amazing. Right? And like, how beautiful is that to your nervous system? Right? Just like even that statement, I'm just going to do my best. Right? Like, and like really being like, and that's enough, because we are so conditioned to like, it's got to be excellent. I got to give it my all. I'm really running into that with my son who's 16 right now, is this idea of like watching him and his life making choices about downtime and when he's studying and whatnot. And this finding myself wanting to be like, you should be on top, like wanting him to put in more effort, even though he's doing well. And there's this part of me, it's like, where's that even coming from? Like, who says that just because you have the time, you should be filling it with productive stuff? And it's like, I'm seeing myself kind of put that on him. It's not to say you don't have to have responsibilities and it's not a balance, but I can feel the pressure of like wanting him to like show up in a certain productive way. But meanwhile, he's been at school for 8 hours and then, and has homework at night. And it's like, he's finding his way. And how do I balance all of that? So it's in there, it's in the water, it's in the conditioning, and we're all doing our part to overcome it. So I love the simplicity of like doing my best. That's okay. Yeah. So good. All right. So ready, Audrey, to move on to the next?
Yes. So so we're actually coming to a close on our workshop. So, what we did today is really bring forward your schedules and looking at, what does your life really look like, being present just with your schedule. How is it impacting you? What are the ways that it sneaks in there and it impacts you in a way that disempowers you? What are the ways that you're looking at your schedule through, the ego, the conditioning, naming and identifying the ways in which you have been conditioned, kind of just the way that it always was, and then presenting you with this aligned self characteristics, and then looking at your schedule through that lens of the aligned self. And hopefully, we're leaving you with an opportunity of choice here, where you now have a choice. You have a different way that you can relate to your schedule, relate to yourself in how you are dealing with your schedule, and seeing that there hopefully are options where you can create space, where you can create a more positive and loving relationship with yourself. And also, you can create space in that form world. You can cancel a meeting that you don't love that isn't really necessary. You can move a deadline, you can do whatever it is, but that you can do it. And you have the tool to really work with whatever comes up, whatever discomfort comes up, when you do go to make that choice that is a different way of relating to how you have in the past. So we hope that we've left you with choice, with a new way of relating to your schedule, which will lead to kindness of self and more space in your life and your schedule. So Donna, do you want to set up the last exercise?
Yeah. Well, I know Annette has to go. Bye, Annette. I'm
Bye,
so glad
Annette.
for your participation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So we have about 15 more minutes. And before we go into the last exercise, the one thing I want to share is one of the things that could be so healing for people is seeing that you're not alone, right? Like each of us hearing today how as women, we are facing this in our own different ways, that we might have different beliefs that are running things. We might have different conditioning that we're dealing with, but that each one of us in this conversation has been vulnerable and willing to share, like, this is what's going on and I want it to be different. And so I want to acknowledge the power of hearing other people's stories. Being with other people creates oh, I'm not alone feeling. And one of the things before we do our final exercise that Audrey and I wanted to share with you is that if there's anyone that wants continued support with that, we have created a follow-up lab called the Shifting Your Shit Show Schedule Lab. And it's going to start in 2 weeks. We're going to do it on Sunday evenings, which is when most people are looking at their schedule and planning their week ahead. We're going to put all the details in an email, so don't worry about the details. But if you're feeling like I would benefit from getting in a group every Sunday night, bringing my calendar forward, asking myself these questions, getting coaching from Donna and Audrey around any knot holes or places where I'm struggling to make a choice that's more aligned versus my conditioned self. We'd love to continue to support you in that way. It's the cost of the program is $3.99. It's a 4-week lab. And again, if you're interested and you sign up by tomorrow night, you get a bonus coaching session with Audrey or I to look at any particular place you're wanting scheduling. And if that resonates with you, great. The link will be in the email. And if it doesn't, you have tools that you've learned today. There's no pressure, but it's like, I know I've been adding into my coaching a lot, these co-working spaces where we're all coming together, and the benefit of doing that together helps build in new habits. So by doing it every Sunday night for 4 weeks, we're supporting you in having that become a part of your life and your routine where you're looking at your schedule consciously. So again, details will come in a follow-up email by the end of the day today. All right. So with that being said, we're going to do an exercise on takeaways. I want you to slow down in your journal and just what did you learn today? What new insight did you have? Are you feeling better? Do you have more hope? Is there a space inside of you that can see that there is so much that you can do, more that you can do for your schedule, or even a little bit more that you can do for your experience? So we're going to give you a few minutes to write those down in your journal, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, about 30 more seconds. Okay, so you can go ahead and wrap that up. And we'd love to invite you to share in the chat and or out loud what you're taking away from today. Some of your insights, shifts in thinking. I worked for a woman named Mama Gina, and she was in her teaching, she was saying the value of sharing like your takeaways, she called it digestion. She's like, it allows you to take in more. So something about like saying what you've gotten here will allow you to continue to kind of acclimate to everything that you received.
Anyone? Bueller?
I'll share.
Okay.
I doing something like this just makes you realize how much your mental health is wrapped around just your schedule, and how much our beliefs about ourselves really determine our schedules. It's really interesting. Like we're staying busy, or we're not saying no, or we're doing all this, all that for a reason. And then how much that affects our mental health.
Absolutely. Powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Christy wrote, one of my takeaways was to review my commitments and examine the why behind them to make sure I'm not overcommitting to things from a fearful place or proving my worth kind of place. Beautiful. How was it to see that? Do you mind me asking?
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, I think just like Julie was saying, like, I don't know. Yeah, mental health, there's nothing it doesn't touch in our life. So that was so interesting to see how much it touches just the way we book ourselves, which was obviously the point. You guys did such a great job. But yeah, you can see how important it is to just reflect and examine and kind of worry about yourself, because that's what you bring to everything you do, is that version of you. So it just feels really important.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Christy. Audrey, you want to?
Rosalind wrote, do you mind if I read that? It's not selfish to need more time to be spontaneous. I need more time of reflection, learning, processing, and centering. And it makes me better at what I do and what I can give when I love myself to the fullest. Beautiful.
Oh my gosh, gorgeous.
So this is beautiful, right? It's like, I know that we've heard it a million times. We have to take care of ourselves first to take care of others, but it really is true. It's like we can only put out from what we have within us. And if we're not taking good care of ourselves, then the quality of care for others is going to suffer. Everything that we touch is going to suffer because of it. So that's beautiful, beautiful insight, Rosalind.
Yeah, thank you. Val?
It's been so insightful and made me reflect on my own like decisions or choices, or feeling when I don't have choices, like to hear everybody's reasons as to like why they operate the way they operate, right? So somebody had said like, oh, I was told I was lazy by my parent, and then but I know I'm not, or the things that we've heard, ingested, what you had mentioned early on, like we get praise for like how much we accomplish, right? So we're like, well, that's what I have to do, right? Or it's like, is it really? So that's been very insightful. And now I'm reflecting on like, okay, so what are those things? What was it like that made me feel aligned? And it was very clear when you folks went through that of like the not aligned. That was very clear. And then the aligned, and I'm like, they're rare, but I know what those are, right? And so like recognizing that like there are those things and that I really feel great when I'm doing those things, which generally have nothing to do with like my career, but have to do with like my, personal relationships. And then making that more of a priority and not allowing myself to be so burned in one area that I never, focus on that thing that causes the alignment. So it's been fascinating to hear.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Val. So beautiful. It is. It's good to hear other people experiencing similar things because as women, and that's how it gets worked. It's like the more of us that are talking about it, sharing and looking at it from a different experience, from a different way does help shift it on the planet. Like we live in a culture that celebrates this, and it's going to take all of us being willing in our own lives, in our own schedules, doing it differently to help if we want a shot, not that it matters if the whole world changes, we're responsible for ourselves, but when we do that, we contribute to creating a new paradigm where women, where we're not running to the max and doing that. Hey, I like to be powerful and productive just as much as anybody else, but not at a cost to myself, not at a cost to my relationship with my son, not at a cost to my body or my sobriety. Not that I'm sober all the time, but what I'm saying, I'm not doing it the way I was doing it before. So yeah, it's really important. Powerful. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Jenny, you want to share? It's okay if you don't want to share, just checking in. You're okay? Okay, beautiful. Thank you for being here. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add, Miss Audrey?
No, just gratitude. Just thank you so much for all of you wonderful, powerful women that are here and willing to take time to prioritize yourself and look at how you can put more of yourself um, higher on the priority list and take good care of yourself. So I acknowledge you all for coming and showing up for yourselves today.
Yes.
And it was a pleasure. It was such a pleasure to work with all of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you too, again, for your willingness to share your experience, to share yourselves, to be supportive of one another. Again, that's how we all change, and we're so grateful. Again, if you want to keep going, feel free to join our Shifting Your Shit Show schedule laboratory that will be starting on May 15th. Details to come.
Okay. Thank you
Thank
all so much.
you. That was great. Thank you.
Good. You're so welcome. Bye.
Bye.